Yo, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be going over the MLB slate on DraftKings for Monday, June 25th. I'm just going to be covering the night slate, just the 10-game main slate. There is an early slate with 2 games, but probably won't be playing that, so I'm not going to really cover that. Just going to focus on the 10-game night slate. Like always, we'll talk about the pitchers I want to target today, or the pitchers that I like at least. We'll go through all the options, though, and talk about the ones that I feel like are playable. We'll talk about bats, BVP plays, and stacks as well. But before we do get started, guys, make sure you drop a like on the video. And if you are new to the channel and you have not subscribed yet, be sure you do click that subscribe button down below, so that way you won't miss out on any of my new videos. But yeah, pitcher today, we've got 5 options over 10K on DraftKings. We'll look at those 5 guys. Verlander, Fultonevich, Clevenger, J.A. Happ, and Blake Snell are sort of our 5 stud options. Also got Gio and Cole Hamels and Maeda sort of in that mid-tier as well. But looking at the 5 guys over 10K, definitely like paying up. Like a lot of these guys, especially in tournaments. In cash games, I think the way you go today is Justin Verlander at home versus the Blue Jays. I will plug Verlander in as one of my 5 plays, but we'll talk about the other guys as well. But just looking at Verlander, I like this matchup here at home. Verlander pitches very well at home. This is a matchup where Verlander can rack up some strikeouts. The Blue Jays do have some strikeouts in their lineup. They only have a 3 implied run total for today. If we look at this lineup and look at the Ks, definitely when you get to the bottom with like Randall, Grichuk, Diaz, Travis, Martin, those guys will strike out. Pilar strikes out a little bit. Solarte, Smoke, Granderson, not a ton of strikeouts there, especially not with Granderson. But still, Verlander has enough talent to where he can strike these guys out. And I just think he's a really good play here at 13-3. I'm not sure how highly owned he'll be. I feel like if you're playing cash today, he's the safest option on the board by far. I would definitely build my lineups around Verlander and cash. And tournaments, with there being other options, people might shy away from Verlander. Maybe we'll go to like Clevenger, or might even consider Blake Snell. But I really like Verlander here. Fultonevich at 11-8 versus the Reds, I would like, but coming off the DL, Reds have been hitting the ball well lately. Not sure if I want to consider Fultonevich here, especially when he's almost 12K. I think I'd rather play Clevenger if I was to go to somebody in GPPs at that price tag. Definitely would go to Clevenger. J. Happ I don't have a ton of interest in. I do like Blake Snell, though. I like Verlander, Clevenger, and Snell if I'm paying up. Those are kind of the 3 guys I'm focused on. Verlander being the cash play. All guys can be used in tournaments, but in cash games I would focus on Verlander. But Clevenger and Snell I think do make sense in tournaments. Blake Snell, a guy we know, has a ton of upside. The guy has racked up some strikeouts this year, especially in some outings against Seattle. 12 Ks against them, got 8 Ks 2 games in a row against Boston and the Angels, 7 Ks against Oakland. Snell definitely has 35 point upside here. If you wanted to consider him in GPPs as sort of a lower owned play with upside, I think that does make sense. Same with Cole Hamels and Gio. Like both of them in tournaments, Hamels especially. I'm actually going to be on the Padres a little bit today. I do have 2 Padres in my 5 plays. I could definitely see Hamels getting like 8 or 9 strikeouts here and maybe giving up a couple runs. Maybe like 2 or 3 runs off 2 or 3 solo homers. Hamels, though, definitely has K upside here. This is a Padres team that we know strikes out a ton. Hamels has been much better this year, has been much better as of late. I don't mind him as a GPP play, but I do have interest in the Padres here, especially since this game is being played in Texas. It's going to be 95 degrees, very humid. The ball should be flying out of the ballpark. I love the Rangers, especially versus Joey Lucchesi or whatever, but Hamels, going looking at these Padres versus Hamels, I think they are in play. I think Hamels is also in play, though. I'm not really stacking up the Padres, but we'll talk about guys like Renfroe, Villanueva, Will Myers. I think those guys definitely make sense today. If you want to play like cheap one-offs, I think those are guys you can go to versus Hamels, because he will give us some hard contact to righties. We'll give us some home runs to righties. And Gio, if he pitches today, we don't have a pitcher on Fantasy Labs, at least not showing it for the Nationals, but I believe it's going to be Gio. If Gio does pitch today versus the Rays in 9,200 in Tropicana, could definitely be a play you go to. Don't know if I would go to Gio in tournaments, though, just because the guy really never has upside. It just seems like he never wins you a tournament. Like, what's the highest, at least in his last 10 games, the highest score that Gio has is 29 DK points against Arizona. And in that game, he went 7 innings with 6 hits, 1 run, 8 Ks. Gio could put up a similar outing to that against the Rays here. But you do have guys with like 35 point upside, similarly priced with like Hamels. You got Snell there if you want to go to him. Even if you want to go cheaper with a guy like Jameson Taillon, I think Taillon also has a lot of upside here. He is my pitcher that I'm going to pair with Justin Verlander. I like Taillon versus the Mets. I like this matchup for him. The Mets have definitely been a team that's better versus righties than they are lefties. I've been picking on the Mets all year with lefties. Not as much with righties, but I do like Taillon here, especially at 7,900. Mets only have a 3.7 implied run total. It's a good pitcher's park, and I just think Taillon definitely has upside, especially because the Mets will strike out. When you get to like 5 through 9, that's where you really get the Ks with Dominic Smith, Flores versus a righty, Mesoraco. Jose Reyes doesn't strike out a lot, but once you skip him, you got the pitcher who will strike out. Even guys like Todd Frazier have an increased K rate versus righties. So I really like Taillon here. I think he has upside. Could easily see him getting 25 to 30. Putting up a similar outing to like he did against the Cardinals. 8 innings, 3 hits, 1 walk, 6 Ks. Wouldn't really be surprised if Taillon went out against the Mets and put up that kind of outing. So I like pairing him with Verlander. He's definitely my favorite SP2, like in that 7K range. But I think another cheap option you could consider is Jonathan Lucchesa. I'm not even sure how you say his name, Lucchesa, whatever. Versus the Phillies, 7,300. Lucchesa, you could definitely consider as well. He's had some tough matchups to start the year. Pretty easy matchup against Tampa Bay, but his last matchup against Seattle, he really struggled. Only 5.5 DK points. This is definitely a good spot versus the Phillies in the National League. Lucchesa won't have to face the DH. The Phillies are a team that do strike out a lot, so if you want to play him at 7,300, especially in tournaments as a cheap SP2, don't mind that. But I think that's really it for like pitchers sub 7K that I really want to consider on this slate. Not a lot of value that I like. I think if you just want to straight up punt, you got to really understand the risk here. But if you're like trying to pay up at pitcher and GPPs and then you want like a really cheap option, Dan Straley is only 4,500 today. I know Dan Straley is not a good pitcher. He hasn't looked good lately. But with that price tag at home versus a Diamondbacks team that will strike out, Straley could definitely get 15 to 20 DraftKings points, and I really wouldn't be surprised if he got that amount. And at 4,500, you get 15 to 20 DK points. That's definitely crushing value. Straley's a risky play. The dude could go out and put up -5, -10, never really know. But you really don't have to take that big of a risk when you're rostering a pitcher that's 4,500. There are pretty much hitters on this slate that are more expensive than that. So as just a straight punt, you're really looking to go cheap. Dan Straley, 4,500, don't mind him. But yeah, guys, that's really it for the pitchers I'm focused on. So now we'll talk about our bats. I mentioned how I like some of those Padres versus Cole Hamels. I like the righties at least, the righties that have power. So at third base, Christian Villanueva. This guy's shown a ton of power this year versus lefties. I believe almost all of his home runs this year have come versus lefties. He's got 16 homers. I think like 13 or 14 of them he's hit versus lefties. Hamels is a good pitcher, but he's definitely a pitcher that will give up home runs to righties, gives up hard contact to righties. Great hitter's park in Texas, great hitting weather as well. I think some of these guys like Villanueva, Renfroe, we'll talk about him in a second. These guys do have upside today, especially like Villanueva with his power versus a pitcher that gives up power to righties. I think he makes a ton of sense. And then the next guy, Renfroe, definitely like him as well. 3,600. Got a little two-man stack here with the Padres. Renfroe and Villanueva projected about third and fourth. Definitely like this little combo here. And although I do have interest in Hamels, and I'll probably be playing him in some tournament lineups, I wouldn't mind a Padres stack at all today. Sort of like a little mini stack with like Myers, Renfroe, and Villanueva. The guys that have power, the guys that could definitely take Hamels deep. Renfroe's one of them. Villanueva's one of them. These guys just have a lot of power versus lefties. And like I said, Hamels struggles to righties, gives up home runs to righties. Great hitter's park, great hitting weather. I do like these Padres as cheap options you can consider today. And then my final play, a really cheap play, sort of a one-off value play I like is Lonnie Chisenhall. He's only 3,300 today. He is projected about fifth for the Indians. The Indians will be traveling to the National League, so they're going to lose their DH, which either means Encarnacion or Alonso won't be in the lineup. So that should move Chisenhall up to the fifth spot where he is projected at 3,300 versus John Gant. Really like Chisenhall as a value play here. Chisenhall definitely hasn't been great for fantasy this year, hasn't shown a ton of upside. Look in the game log, got a couple of double-digit games, but a lot of zeros in there, a lot of low-scoring games. But I like this matchup for him versus Gant. John Gant's a pitcher I'm not really afraid to take bats against. Chisenhall getting that little lineup bump should help him as well. And I think he makes a ton of sense, especially paying up for pitcher. You need some cheap bats. That's where those cheap Padres come in, and that's where Chisenhall comes in at 3,300. But yeah, guys, these are my 5 plays for today. Justin Verlander, Jameson Taillon, Christian Villanueva, Hunter Renfroe, and Lonnie Chisenhall. Now we will go over some of the stacks on this slate and BVP plays before we do get out of here. So the top stack for me, I didn't have any exposure to them in my 5 plays, but I love the Rangers here versus Joey Lucchesi, especially the righties, Andrus, Beltre, Profar, Kiner-Falefa, Chirinos as a catcher option. I think these guys are great plays on this slate. Didn't include them because they're a little expensive, but maybe when we get lineups on Monday night, maybe some value will open up and I'll be able to definitely get some of these Rangers in my lineup. I mentioned the Padres. I like Hamels today, but I don't mind guys like Myers, Renfroe, Villanueva if you're not playing Hamels. Then other stacks on this slate, not a ton I love. Besides the Rangers, I would say the Mariners are probably my next favorite if you're not considering the Padres, because the Mariners get to face Cashner in Camden Yards, which is a great hitter's park. Cashner has definitely struggled this year. The Mariners do have a ton of power in their lineup. Segura's got some sneaky power. Haniger, Cruz, Seager, Ryan Healy. These guys are definitely in play for me, especially a guy like Seager who's only 4,100. Definitely one of my favorite third basemen on this slate. But yeah, I think that's it for stacks. Now we'll go over the BVP plays on this slate. Only got about 6 of them, it looks like. Yeah, 6 BVP plays. We'll cover them real quickly. Colby Rasmus, 7 for 12 versus Felix Hernandez. Mark Trumbo is 10 for 39 with 3 home runs versus Felix. Nelson Cruz, 6 for 13 with a home run versus Cashner. And Kyle Seager, 7 for 21 with 2 home runs versus Cashner. Then 2 guys from the Blue Jays have hit Justin Verlander well. Russell Martin's 8 for 24 with a home run. And Justin Smoak, 5 for 20 with 3 home runs. Then looking at the pitchers, no pitchers have done well in their matchups, but surprisingly, Justin Verlander has struggled somewhat against the Blue Jays in the past. Blue Jays have hit him for a .282 average, 35 hits, 17 extra base hits, and 9 home runs through 124 ABs. But that's not really going to keep me off of Verlander. Verlander's a much different pitcher than what he used to be. After his Cy Young winning year, he kind of went downhill, and he's kind of managed to come back uphill and really show that he still got some stuff left in the tank. So I like Verlander here, despite the PVB. But yeah, guys, I think that is it for the main slate today. I think that it is it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully it did help you. If you did enjoy, just make sure you click that like button before you get out of here. And if you have not subscribed yet, make sure you do subscribe as well. Like always, if you've got questions, you can hit me up on Twitter at the DFS_GOAT, or feel free to leave a comment down below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And good luck tonight on this 10-game slate, guys. Peace.